Once upon a time, in an age of clashing empires and whispering oracles, there existed a great and terrible malady. It was not a plague of the body, but a storm of the mind. It caused kings to fear whispers, merchants to mourn fortunes not yet lost, and common folk to be tossed about by the raging waves of anger, fear, and desire. People searched for a cure in temples, in treasures, and in triumphs, but the storm within only grew stronger. They believed happiness was a castle on a distant hill, always visible but never reachable. But they were looking in the wrong place. For the secret to quelling this storm and building an unshakable kingdom lay not in the world outside, but deep within the heart of a person. This is the tale of that kingdom, and the philosopher knights who discovered its timeless laws. Our story begins not with a king, but with a wealthy merchant named Zeno. He commanded a fleet of ships laden with a rare and precious purple dye from Phoenicia, a treasure worth a king's ransom. But the sea god, Poseidon, was in a foul mood. A tempest of impossible fury descended upon Zeno's ship. Waves like mountains crashed over the deck, splintering wood and tearing sails. Zeno lost everything. His ship, his crew, his fortune, all swallowed by the churning abyss. He washed ashore on the coast of Athens with nothing but the clothes on his back. A lesser man would have cursed the gods, but as Zeno stood on the beach, drying in the Grecian sun, a strange peace settled over him. He had lost all that he thought made him rich, yet he was still here. He could still think, still breathe, still learn. He realized that the storm of the sea was no match for the storm in a man's soul, and that true wealth could not be sunk to the bottom of the ocean. Drawn by this profound revelation, Zeno wandered into Athens, a city of thinkers and dreamers. He found a bookseller and began to read voraciously about the great sages of the past. He soon began to share his own newfound wisdom, not in a grand academy, but in a public space, a painted porch known as the Stoic. Here, under murals depicting legendary battles, Zeno waged a new kind of war, a war against needless suffering. People from all walks of life, statesmen, soldiers, craftsmen, and slaves, gathered to listen. They were the first citizens of a new, invisible kingdom. They did not learn to conquer lands, but to conquer their own impulses. They did not forge swords of steel, but virtues of the soul. This painted porch became the first castle of Stoicism, a fortress built not of stone, but of ideas. The kingdom Zeno founded was governed by three great treasures of the mind. The first was the sphere of power. This magical law taught that the world was split in two, that which we can control and that which we cannot. Our thoughts, our judgments, our actions, these were inside our sphere. The weather, the opinions of others, our very fortunes, these were outside. The knights of the inner kingdom learned to pour all their energy into perfecting what was inside their sphere, and to accept what was outside with serene indifference. This single treasure held the power to grant immense peace. The second great treasure was the river of fate. This taught that life flows like a great river, and our path is part of its current. To fight the current, to wish for a different past, to demand a different present, is to exhaust oneself in a futile struggle, leading only to suffering. The Stoic way was to learn to swim with the current, to live in accordance with nature. It did not mean to be passive, but to act with virtue and courage within the flow of destiny. It was to love one's fate, whatever it may be, and to find opportunity and purpose in its twists and turns. To a Stoic, there were no bad events, only new currents to navigate with skill and grace. The third and final great treasure was a set of 4 cardinal jewels, the very source of the kingdom's strength. They were wisdom, the sapphire of clear judgment; justice, the emerald of fairness to others; courage, the ruby of facing fear and pain; and temperance, the diamond of self-control. These were not mere words, but skills to be polished daily. A Stoic knight knew that a life adorned with these 4 jewels was the only true measure of wealth. With these jewels, a person could face any dragon, whether it was a tyrant on a throne or a flicker of greed in their own heart. For generations, the laws of this inner kingdom were passed down. Eventually, the tale reached the heart of the mightiest empire the world had ever known, Rome. Here we meet a new knight, Seneca, a man of great intellect who was tasked with advising the volatile young emperor, Nero. While Nero indulged in every whim, building palaces of gold and seeking endless applause, Seneca wrote secret scrolls, his famed letters, on how to build the inner citadel. He navigated a treacherous court, facing exile and political ruin. In the end, when the mad emperor turned on him and ordered his death, Seneca faced it with the calm of a sage, comforting his weeping family and demonstrating the final lesson of his philosophy, that even in the face of death, a virtuous soul is its own master. From the highest halls of power, our tale now takes us to the lowest rungs of society. Meet Epictetus, a man who wore the chains of a slave. His cruel master, in a fit of rage, once twisted his leg until it snapped, leaving him lame for life. When it happened, Epictetus simply warned him, "It will break." And when it broke, he said calmly, "I told you it would." For Epictetus understood the sphere of power better than anyone. His body could be chained, his leg could be broken, but his will, his judgment, his mind, these were untouchable. They were free. After gaining his freedom, he became one of the most revered teachers of the inner kingdom, proving that its gates were open to all, and that the strongest fortress is not built by an emperor, but by the will of a single, unconquerable mind. Finally, our fairy tale reaches its zenith with the philosopher king, Marcus Aurelius. He was the most powerful man on earth, emperor of Rome at the height of its glory. But his reign was no peaceful fable. He faced constant war on the frontiers, a deadly plague that ravaged his people, and the sting of betrayal from his closest allies. Every day was a battle against chaos. Yet every night, by the flickering light of a campaign tent, he would not count his gold or plot his revenge. He would open a simple journal and write to himself, practicing the laws of the inner kingdom. These writings, which we now call the Meditations, were his private dialogue, his way of polishing the cardinal jewels and remembering the river of fate. He was the living embodiment of the tale, a king who ruled the world, but whose true focus was ruling the unshakable kingdom within. The Roman Empire eventually fell. Palaces crumbled to dust, and gold was scattered to the winds. But the inner kingdom, the kingdom of the Stoics, never fell. Its laws were too simple to be forgotten and too powerful to be destroyed. They have been passed down through the ages, a secret map for anyone who seeks tranquility in a turbulent world. And so, the moral of our long tale is this: the storms of life will always rage. People will disappoint you, fortunes will be lost, and pain will visit. But you possess the power to build your own fortress of the mind, your own inner citadel. The blueprints are in this story. The tools are your own thoughts. The time to start building is now.